How's it going, Michelle? Good to
It's
see you,
pretty good.
Michelle. How are you?
I'm excellent. I'm in the Jardin de Paradiso in New York City.
Well, to me, that when I see that garden, it takes me to some of my literally happiest moments of being there. I remember right after my dad died, 74. I think he was his late 70s, but it was 2014, and we had a poetry session in all of the community gardens in Lower East Side, but we ended up in the tree in El Jardín Paraiso, and we read Lawrence Ferlinghetti and Allen Ginsberg, and I had a little, I teared up a little bit, but it felt like the garden was coming at me and putting its arms around me and healing me, and I think that's it's such a happy moment right there. I mean, when we were just talking for a minute about this idea of sustainability, and I just hope as we go into this holiday season, after a crazy election, after 4 years of manic activism, where literally we're a country of immigrants, unless we're indigenous people, everybody are immigrants here, right? And you saw kids in cages. We saw us pull out of a climate agreement. We saw the United States pull out of a peace deal we had with Iran. So it's been like this manic, scary moment, right? And for some of us, to depression, right? So I just hope as we go into the next year, we can find some space for recharging, right? Our creative juices. I was talking with Reverend Billy and Savitry the other day, and they were talking about, what are you doing? And I was like, I'm reading for a while. I just need to recharge my batteries. And it doesn't mean I'm not going to do union meetings. I was in union meetings, 2 5-hour union meetings in a row this week, and it's too long. How do we create structures? And I think, Michelle, this is something, hopefully we can have a conversation on this podcast about how do we create sustainable structures where we can bring part of what that garden brings to you, brings to everybody, bring that idea of arts, of creativity, of color, of regeneration, of flowers, of us painting together, us throwing seed bombs on our bike rides together as we've done before. But how do we create spaces where we can plug in and plug out without feeling like, oh, you did the wrong thing, you didn't do enough, you did too much? I mean, we've all seen people in New York or in LA, we know, who work themselves into the ground, right? Or they lose their sense of humor, or they stop having that levity they might have had, right? I don't want to use the word burnout, whatever you want to call it. And I don't want to use the word, I mean, there is real trauma out there, capital T trauma, but there's lowercase t trauma where I think the big question is, how do people find places to recharge? And I'm asking, and for you, how do you, when you're doing this work, how do you recharge? How do you find places? I mean, what kind of recharging do you need?
I guess the same as everybody else. And one person who works really hard is our friend Kim. Mm-hmm. And I love how she puts on Facebook and social media where she's recharging. Mm-hmm. I mean, those pictures just make me happy. And she's like,
great picture of
so hard, and all of a sudden she's a Rockaway and like having the best time, laughing, right, being with people. I need to do a lot more recharging. I think I've been pushing myself during pandemic. Mm-hmm. And there's a little bit of maybe guilt even about.
Yeah. Why is that? And I think that's the thing we have to unpack. I mean, we have, we always say with the United States, we're this sort of Protestant country, and we a lot of the wackos from Europe came here and created a guilt model, right? Like very much a guilt. And if you're not working enough, there's something wrong with you. And yet, like my friends in Italy say, there's sweet idleness, sweet nothings. Occasionally a little sweet nothingness is a good, and obviously I'm all for work hard, enjoy, take care of, find meaning in your busyness. But I also hope we can, within this idea of sustainability, which is, I hope, a theme of this podcast, is think about what is sustainability, right? What do we need? What do our souls need? What do our bodies need? What do our creative juices need to sustain themselves? I mean, the 2 signs I have behind me, and I talked about them earlier, are signs where literally we had an activist meeting and everybody said, let's do some painting. And so fun to actually sit, and you can listen to people, you could paint, this is one of my favorite artists, Seth de Bulkman, right? He made that one. The other one, the shrubs and trees support Occupy Wall Street. Occupy Wall Street. I don't remember who made that, but again, it was just this playful idea that we can get together and from the bottom up, find some play, find a spirit of regeneration, find a sense of, they say that kids are the ones that are supposed to play, and that when we become adults, we don't need to play anymore. But we know for our cognitive development, kids need play. I would argue developmentally, adults need to keep on playing. And if we don't keep on playing, in whatever that might mean, I think we do lose a little bit of that creativity, that charge. And that's what I worry about. So I hope we can find places where we can all get a little of our play in there, a little, and whatever that might be, whether we're at the Rockaways or in the garden or on the stoop. I mean, I think non-competitive play, non-competitive activities where we can actually be together without one-upping each other, without the competitiveness that is exhausting, share space together. That's what I'm hoping for in the next few years, because it has been I mean, during the previous, I mark my life in terms of periods of activism, and I think about the Clinton years where I was first getting arrested and doing direct action when the Republicans were on the ascent. And then the Bush years was just, it accelerated direct actions, right? It accelerated, anti-war activism, and you felt like you were fighting that machine. And that sort of started to wane. They lost a little support. But then the joyous activism of the Occupy Wall Street and the biking and sustainability activism of the Obama years. But this last 4 years has been this maniacal, go to Supreme Court, fight for the Affordable Care Act, fight for homeless people, fight for immigrants, right? Like, it's just, people become disposable. Fight Kavanaugh, who literally, basically all of his college roommates said, this guy's assaulted women and they didn't want to bring those women up to talk. One woman came and now there's death threats. I mean, so that person's on the Supreme Court right now. So there's been real battles. So how do we create places to sustain ourselves within these battles, these long-term policy battles we've had? So hopefully we can take a little time for that right now.
I think you brought up so many important things. And I think that what we want to leave everybody with is that activism is fun. Activism is about being with other people. Mm-hmm. Probably the best outcomes from activism probably happen because people are having the most fun and they're enjoying this and they're living it. And it's the most authentic form of activism as well.
It's funny, when David Dinkins, the mayor of New York in the early 90s, died, people are recalling, like my friend Eric Sawyer just mentioned Dinkins visiting him and Jesse Jackson in jail and getting them out early, right? Like, and they put Bill Clinton on the phone with Jesse Jackson, and they cut a deal about immigrants and HIV. But I think about the last few years, some of the most fun days I've had with my friend Ken Schless, who's a photographer, Jay Walker from Rise and Resist. I mean, my friend Kate Barnhart from New Alternatives for LGBT Youth, she said, you and Jay talked my ear off, because Jay Walker, when we went to get arrested to try and defend the Affordable Care Act, we all got arrested with some disability activists who blocked the hearings. It's so much fun. But then we just drank a lot of Cokes and coffee and talked for 5 hours on the way back and listened to dance music. So yeah, you're right. I appreciate you reminding us it can be fun. You can do something serious, but if you aren't having fun along the way, kind of what's the point? I mean, we want to create a better world, but how we do it definitely definitely matters. So, and I think I've really enjoyed it the last few years, but it's also, we've hit a little bit of a wall if we can't recharge. So hopefully everybody in the next few months, in the end of the Trump era, thank goodness, thank you, Allah, God's above, like we can take a little time to recharge our batteries, read some poetry, and find our friends, sit on the stoop, sit in El Jardín Paraiso, or go to the beach, but just find a way to take it down a notch. Thank you, Michelle.
Thank you, Ben. Have a wonderful holiday weekend. I'll talk to you soon.
You too. Pleasure to see you. Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.